Welcome to Growing Younger podcast, where we guide you through your journey of reaching your fitness goals after 40.
Hello guys, and today's topic is training with Achilles injuries after the age of 40. So this is Alex here, physio from Growing Younger Fitness, and this is our topic today. Now, why did we choose Achilles injuries as today's topic? It is becoming more common among people, particularly over the age of 40, to suffer from a bit of Achilles pain, and quite often it's what's called Achilles tendinopathy or tendinosis, which is basically degeneration or wear and tear in the Achilles tendon. Now, let me just quickly explain what Achilles tendon is. So, Achilles tendon is a thick cord-like tendon or structure that connects your calf muscle to the heel bone, to the calcaneus. So, its main function is to transfer the force generated by the calf muscle. Think of it as a piece of cord that the calf muscle uses to pull on the foot or on the back of the heel, to pull your foot into kind of down pointing, into toes down pointing position. So essentially, when you run or when you walk, when you push off with your foot, your Achilles is significantly involved there because your calf muscle contracts, it pulls on the Achilles, and your foot goes into motion. So you sort of push off. Okay. So why do people over 40 are more prone to getting Achilles injuries? So there's actually two main reasons. Okay, so first of all, as we age, unfortunately, there's reduced collagen production. So collagen is one of the primary components or building materials that tendons are made of. So there's reduced amount of collagen available in your body. So therefore, the tensile strength of the tendon decreases. Okay. The other thing is, as we get older, over the years, we put our tendons through quite a bit of stress, especially those people who have been involved in some form of sport, especially running. So by the time you get to your 40s or 50s, you probably would have done a significant amount of micro trauma or tiny little damage to your tendons. So basically, again, it's a form of wear and tear. And by the time you get to your, let's say 40s or 50s, you would have done enough of that micro damage to start to, for that to start to cause some pain and discomfort. So people who are most prone to getting Achilles tendon injuries are men between the ages of 30 and 60. Now, another reason why this particular age group is more common, it's more common to see Achilles injuries is with people of that age. It is not rare to see someone who is doing a sitting job, office job during the week, and come the weekend they go and play a bit of football or rugby or whatever it is. So their body gets deconditioned. They do very little during the week, and then suddenly during the weekend they decide to go running and sprinting and do all sorts of crazy things. Their body is just not used to it, and that can cause an injury as well. So, look, the next section I'm going to cover for you the most common mistakes that people make when they have an Achilles injury and they try to exercise at the same time. So the mistake number one is basically just once you feel the pain, you just do nothing. You get complete rest. So let's say you are maybe a gym goer or runner, or you just play a bit of, I don't know, netball, basketball, football, whatever it is for you. So as soon as you realize you have an Achilles injury, you just stop doing everything and you have complete rest. Now, yes, it will reduce the pain, but long term, you're deconditioning your whole body, which is not good for you in terms of your general health, but also it's even with Achilles, it may not be such a good thing, because once you do go back to playing that sport, chances are that there's a high chance that the pain will come back as soon as you get back into your sport. Okay, So complete rest is not necessary most of the time. You do need to focus on reducing the aggravating activity. So for example, if you find running is the one that's causing the pain, but you also go to the gym, so maybe going to the gym is okay as long as it doesn't hurt. Okay, so you got to be selective in what you can or cannot do, and I'll cover that a little bit more later in this podcast. Mistake number 2 is going back to particularly running, because running seems to be the most, well, pretty much, yeah, probably is the most aggravating activity for Achilles injuries. So going back to running too soon, so running or any kind of plyometric exercise. So plyometric means just high speed, usually high impacts, things like running, skipping rope, that kind of thing. So anything that involves high impact usually is quite high risk for Achilles injuries. So like I said before, you got to be selective in what exercises you can and cannot do. And another mistake number 3, that's quite common, is people think that stretching is really, really great for Achilles injuries. And look, some stretching is good. I'm talking about overstretching. So some people think that the harder you stretch to the point where it really hurts, that somehow it will make the Achilles injury better. That's not always the case. In fact, there's a little bit of research, there's a little bit of data that says that if you overstretch, if you're stretching to the point of pain, it may even cause a little bit more damage to your Achilles. Okay? All right, so those are the 3 mistakes that are quite common that I see quite often in even like seeing my patients with Achilles injuries. Now, the next section is I'm going to cover what exercises you should be focusing on, or what exercises are actually okay to do. So as I alluded before, usually anything low impact is okay, all right? And look, the best indicator is your pain levels, okay? So if you can tolerate an exercise, if you can do it without pain and it doesn't cause a flare-up afterwards, and look, you have to try, okay? You have to try to find out, okay? Usually try things on a low scale, try a tiny bit, a little bit, and then just see how your body responds. So if you go to a gym, unless your Achilles injury is really severe, you should be able to do most exercises. Most exercises pretty much full stop, okay? So obviously your upper body should be fine. With the legs, pretty much as long as your foot is flat on the floor, as long as you don't end up rising up on your tippy toes, it's usually okay. All right, so things like squats, even sometimes if you do like a Bulgarian squat where one foot is in front, the other one is on a stool behind you, those kind of exercise, even though they are quite advanced and they require quite a bit of strength, but they actually usually okay because they're not putting too much stress on specifically on the Achilles. So like I said again, as long as your foot stays flat, or as long as you're not coming up on your tippy toes, then most exercises in the gym are usually okay. All right. So also exercises that don't involve any weight bearing. For example, if you do legs and you do leg extensions, so there's literally no pressure on the ball of your foot because you're not weight bearing at all, then that's usually okay as well. All right. So it's only things like coming up, if you're coming up on your tippy toes or you're doing some skipping, that is something you have to be aware of that might be an aggravating factor. Okay. Now, in terms of physio exercise that may actually help you recover from injuries. So again, like this is not a substitute for you getting personalized medical or physio advice, but generally speaking, most people will start with isometric calf hold. So what it means is you come up on your tippy toes and you just hold that position for a while. Okay, so that's usually one of the easiest exercises you can do. Most people can start with that. Okay. Other options include seated calf raises. So you sit down and then you just rise up on your tippy toes while you're sitting. Okay, it's a kind of an easier version of a calf raise. So one of the most common and probably one of the most researched exercises to deal with Achilles injuries is something called eccentric heel drops. Now, what it means is that you come up, you stand on the edge of a step, you rise up on your tippy toes, both feet, and then you shift the weight towards the one leg that's affected or the one that's painful, and then you lower your weight down on that mostly on that affected side. Now you can only do this exercise once the pain improves to the point where you can do this exercise without an agony, without too much pain. Okay, but again, this should be guided by a physio. Now walking, again, unless your Achilles injury is quite severe, walking is usually okay as well. Cycling there's very little weight bearing and is very low impact. So cycling is the exercise of choice, especially if you do runs. If you're a runner and you don't want to lose your fitness, cycling would probably be a go-to if you want to maintain your fitness while you're recovering from your Achilles injury. Another option is swimming, but cycling is probably more accessible for most people. It's also important to strengthen your glutes and your core. So there's a bit of evidence to say that Achilles injuries are more common with people who have weak hip muscles or weak glutes and also weak core. So by strengthening those areas, you are probably helping recovery, and you also probably help prevent these Achilles injuries from happening again. All right, the next section, I'm going to cover just a few little helpful tips that will actually help you get over your Achilles quicker, and also it might help you exercise with less discomfort while you're still recovering from Achilles injury. So I'm going to talk about heel. So believe it or not, but if you have Achilles injury, having a little bit of a heel raise in your shoe is actually a helpful thing. So you can either choose shoes with a tiny bit of a wedge, or you can, so usually sports shoes like running shoes, they have a little bit of a heel. Okay, so using those kind of shoes is quite helpful. If you have a reasonably flat shoes, you can buy a pair of heel raisers. So they're just tiny little wedges that you can put in the back of your shoes, and that helps to raise the heel when you're walking, or even when you decide it's time to start running again. Okay. Now you can try and use a bit of strapping. So I use K-taping, and some people report that actually helps them reduce the pain when they walk or when they run. Again, there are different techniques for strapping, so you can look them up if you like. But yeah, strapping is definitely worthwhile trying. And also, if you are getting back into running after an Achilles injury, I would recommend going to a specialized shoe store where they look at your feet, they look at your running technique, look at your walking, and they will actually advise a shoe model that specifically fits your style of running. Or like some people can pronate, some people have flat feet, some people have supinated feet. So they'll look at your feet and they'll advise you what type of shoe will be more suitable for your style of running. Okay, so that will be I think that's fairly important as well. So next section, I'm just going to cover quickly what exercise specifically you should be aware of that are sort of very high risk. Now, obviously, when you get a lot better, you can go back to some of these activities in a gradual way. But yeah, they're definitely the sort of exercise that if you're still recovering, they definitely have a higher risk of aggravating your injury. So number one is running, sprinting, or jumping. Again, high impact. Anything high impact where you put a lot of stress through the ball of your foot, it's likely to aggravate your Achilles injury. So number two is hill running. So running, especially uphill, it generates more force through the Achilles because you're spending more time on the ball of your foot, and that is even a higher risk as well. So like I said, heavy calf stretching with like a lot of tension, a lot of load that causes pain is not advisable. Number four is plyometric exercise. So high speed kind of explosive movements. So things like box jumps, jump squats, skipping rope, jump lunges, that kind of thing. Number five, prolonged barefoot walking. So shoes especially shoes with a little bit of a heel, they provide support. They actually take a bit of pressure off the Achilles when you walk. So walking barefooted or walking in very flat shoes actually puts more stress on the Achilles. Now, another thing to be aware of, if you live close to a beach and you like to go for beach walks, walking on sand puts way more stress on the calf and the Achilles. So while you're recovering, if you're still in those sort of painful stages of the Achilles injuries, I probably wouldn't go walking on sand, especially dry sand. Something to be aware of. Okay, so the last section is kind of a bit of guidance in terms of returning to sport. So let's say you're a runner or you're a football player and you had an Achilles injury. So how do you know you're ready to return back to sport? So again, ideally a physio should guide you with that, okay? But if you decide to do it on your own, just a very general guideline, you should be pain-free with your daily activities. So day-to-day stuff like walking, getting things done should be pretty much, they should not cause any pain, okay? You should try things out. So go for a longer walk. Go for like a 30-40 minute walk. Challenge yourself a little bit. Maybe find a hill to go up because that will be harder for your Achilles. If you can do that, then maybe then you can go for a very slow jog. Now, when you go for your first slow jog, keep it really flat. So find a place where there are no hills, as flat as you can find, and just go for a 5 to 10 minute jog. Give it 24 hours. Just see how your Achilles responds. If it doesn't flare up, then you can slowly start to increase the distance. Okay? So if you need to go back to things like hopping and skipping, say if you play basketball and you want to get back to skipping and like jumping and shooting the ball, then I would suggest do some jogging first. If that feels okay, then try some maybe skipping rope for like a minute, okay? And then just, again, give it 24 hours, see how your body responds to that. If there's no pain, then you can slowly increase the intensity of that, okay? As a general rule of thumb, like if you're trying new things and the pain is sort of, let's give it a ballpark figure. I would say if it's 3 out of 10 or less, then it's probably okay to carry on. Now, another useful guideline, if every time you try the activity, the pain gets less, so the pain reduces every time you try the same thing, it's probably a good sign. That means your body is adapting to this type of activity, and the chances are if you keep doing what you're doing, it will just continue to get better and better and better. Okay. However, if your pain gets worse every time you try a jog or run or skipping, then you're probably sort of the damage accumulates and you are aggravating the injury, and you should definitely back off. Okay. Okay, so cool. Hopefully you learned something from this. So if you are suffering from an Achilles injury, take it easy. You usually don't need to stop completely doing everything. So you should be able to continue with some form of exercise to keep you fit, keep you strong. If you need some, you should get a physio advice because that will definitely speed up your recovery. In terms of things you can do to reduce the pain while you're still recovering, I would suggest heel raises, good shoes, and possibly strapping. Be very aware of high impact activities such as running, skipping, plyometric type exercises because they often can aggravate and set you back. They can aggravate the injury. So hopefully that helped. And if you have any questions, reach out to us. You can go to our website, growingyounger.co.nz, or you can email me directly at alex@growingyounger.co.nz. Hey, look, if you know someone who is struggling with an Achilles injury, feel free to share this podcast with them. I would really appreciate it. So it might help someone. Just share it if you feel that the person might benefit from it. Okay. All the best for now. We'll speak to you on the next podcast.